What if I told you that by just asking yourself one question, you could transform your career and give your life more meaning and purpose? Well, I asked myself that question, and I was not prepared for where it was going to take me. But it revealed some truths and some experiences that I had from my early childhood that resurfaced and changed my life and my career forever. And I've got the receipts. And I'm going to ask you to look for some of your own. I'm Jason Ward, entrepreneur and author of the book Finding Your Gold Thread, and I'm on a mission to help 1 million people discover their true calling, and I really hope you're one of them. The premise in my book's really simple. I believe everybody has a gold thread, which is your true calling. And if I look back through my life, I can trace my entire career back to one sheet of paper that my 7th grade science teacher gave me. Now, I did a little work. I did a little digging to find all that. But my premise is that if you can look back, you'll see these little stepping stones where the people that you've met, the events that have happened, opportunities that you've taken part in have formed you into who you are, where you are, what you love, what makes you tick. All of those things are part of your true calling. And I kind of lost sight of mine. And I want to see if this resonates with any of you. I got an art scholarship to attend college, and that meant I had to major in art in some discipline. I could do drawing, painting, I could do printmaking, I could do graphic design. And I had some fears along the way. I had sort of gotten my scholarship because I was a portrait artist. I drew a lot of people. I drew pictures of babies and a lot of deceased relatives that people would ask me to draw for their family just so they would have something to remember their family by. And that was really my gifting, was to craft these images. But I didn't want to major in drawing because I didn't want to be one of those so-called starving artists. Everybody kept asking me, "Oh, you're going to major in art? Well, what are you going to fall back on if that fails? If you fall flat on your face and can't make a living, you're going to be, in the gutter somewhere because you're a starving artist." And I didn't want that. And instead of just letting God lead this, I kind of just tried to force something to happen. Well, I found out about advertising, and I did enjoy, and I feel like God opened that door too, but I found an ad agency, and I became an intern at this ad agency. And then I just got laser focused on going to grad school. And to the exclusion of every other opportunity that came my way, I was determined one way or another to do this because I wanted to have the paycheck. I wanted to be in an office building and have the title and all that stuff. And so I applied for grad school, and I first got rejected. And I didn't read the writing on the wall that maybe this isn't my true calling because this is just not working. It's not easy for me like some of the other art disciplines that came so easy. I took a photography class when I was in college, loved it. And they wouldn't let me take any more. I would have taken more, but I was committed into this graphic design tract. And so I kind of looked at this closed door of not getting into grad school like, no way. And I put a boot through that door. I'm like, no, that door is not closing. I will force this door to open. And I think right there, God sort of just took his hands off the wheel and was like, okay, this is what you want? All right, let's see what you do with it. So skip ahead 20 years into an advertising career. I was successful. I run my own ad agency since 2004. And along the way, I did dabble with photography and end up teaching photography. And that became a love of mine. And I did a lot of commercial photography. I DP'd a bunch of TV commercials and videos, and photography just came along with the territory. But along around when I was about 41 years old, I went through a kind of a classic midlife crisis, if you will. And I looked at my life like, what am I doing with my life? Do you ever stop to ask that question? Like, what am I doing? What's my purpose? Like, what am I even doing with my life? That's kind of the question I ask myself. There's a hard drive behind me back here that is chock full of, oh my gosh, hundreds of ads, newspaper ads, magazine ads, TV commercials, billboards, flyers, brochures, catalogs, even thousands and thousands of photos that I've taken for commercial purposes. And I just didn't want to believe that that was the sum total purpose of my life, is to have this hard drive full of ads. I asked myself, what would happen to that hard drive if suddenly I got killed in a car wreck? What would my kids do with that hard drive full of ads? And the answer was, they'd probably throw it in the landfill. And that really crushed me. I just felt empty. I felt devoid. I didn't feel fulfilled, like I was doing anything that God really intended me for my true purpose, just to sell products and services. Is that really all I'm here on this earth to do? I felt like I had more. And I wonder, do you feel that same way? Do you feel like there's something more out there? So then I stopped and I went back to the well and I asked God. I asked him, what is it that you want me to do? God, just show me, reveal to me what it is you want me to do, and I'll do it. But I'm spinning my wheels down here, and I have ignored your will, and I have forced my career on myself. And I had that breakdown. But then he was gracious enough to give me a breakthrough. I wanted to clear my head. So I took my wife, Kelsey, and we went on a hike out in the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge. And I wanted to get up really early. I just felt this call to go up to Mount Scott, go up to the top of Mount Scott and watch the sunrise, spend a little time with God, and just kind of get my head cleared up, you know? I just had all this heaviness on my heart. Well, I had a new camera, a new Nikon, and I wanted to experiment with it. So I get my coffee, I get my camera, and I drive to Mount Scott, only to learn that the gate at the bottom of this thing was closed. I planned on driving all the way to the top and just sitting there and watching the sunrise, maybe listening to something, a sermon or something on the radio, and just kind of clear my head. But I get there and the gate's closed, and I was like, well, maybe I should go back and go to bed. And God was like, no. You're not going back to bed. You're going to the top of this thing, because I've got something for you up there. I'm like, what? It's dark. I don't even know how long I can't make it to the top of this thing by going around that road. I'll miss the sunrise. I didn't leave that much time. He's like, well, you better get going. You better get moving. So I can't carry everything, tripod. So I grabbed my coffee. I always have my coffee sitting around. And I grabbed that camera and my phone for a light. And I hopped boulders and went to the top of that mountain. And I got there just before the sunrise. And I just could not believe the colors and just the most beautiful sunrise that I'd ever seen. And I just got my camera. I wasn't at that time a landscape photographer. I just threw it up, kind of bounced it on my knee a little bit, and I started shooting a panorama of this thing, just trying to capture it all. It was so beautiful. Well, that picture changed things. Suddenly, I had a piece of art. And this time I started sharing it with my friends, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I want to hang it on my wall. And I started kind of feeling something that I hadn't felt in a really long time. And God put that on my heart. Go do that. So I did. I went out and I started shooting landscapes everywhere. I shot around my farm here. I live in southeast Oklahoma. I've got acreage out here, and I just get up in the morning, go walking through the pasture. I would shoot trees and sunrise, and then I found Broken Bow, which is a beautiful place in southeast Oklahoma, and I would travel out there every week to shoot the lake and shoot trees and fog and mist and all these really cool sunrise pictures. And I just fell in love with doing landscape photography because it got back to my little true calling that was down in there, kind of buried, you know. And then something crazy happened. Something amazing happened, is that I submitted one of these photos that I had just on a wild hair. I just wanted to go out in the pasture and take a shot of the astrophotography, the Milky Way over this tree. And that image became my first magazine cover on Oklahoma Today. And this is different, though. This was different for me because I've published hundreds of thousands of pages and ads inserted into magazines just like this. But for the first time, now I had something on the cover that they were paying me for because they wanted to see it, not because I'm paying somebody to look at it. Here, you can't skip this. You have to watch it. No, this is something that I was being paid to create this experience for people. And I actually ended up having this is a 2-page spread that I got on the inside and won my first award with this photo, an Irma. And this was just different. I did this constantly out in Broken Bow and ended up falling in love with that area. Decided to purchase some land out there. And I wanted to maybe build a short-term rental. I just felt compelled to do that. And so I bought some land, and that opened up another opportunity to get more land with a business partner and develop some short-term rental properties and put them on Airbnb. And then my business partner asked me a question. He said, how would you like to design the properties? And suddenly something surfaced from my childhood. Now, this is great. My mom, she saves everything. She's a hoarder of especially all my stuff. So in the attic, there was just boxes and boxes of this stuff. And I went through a time around junior high where I drew houses. This is literally from like 8th grade. This is a couple of sketches from my childhood that Mom kept that I didn't even remember existing. I kind of remember doing it, but when my buddies were all drawing like dragons and knights and all that sort of stuff, I was drawing houses. No wonder people made fun of me in junior high, right? I mean, what junior high boy is sitting around drawing houses like this? But that opportunity resurfaced, I don't even know how many years later, and I find myself on my kitchen table with graph paper and graphite again, drawing houses, only this time, instead of it just being a sketch, this went to a draftsman. It was made into blueprints, and the house was built. And a couple years later, that house sold, and the money that was made from that house allowed me the gift of being able to pay off my mortgage for this house where I currently reside. And so when I asked that question, God, what is it that you want me to do with my life? It took me back to my original calling. Now, what is your true calling? For some people, it's so obvious. It's so just clear, crystal clear, clear cut. I have a nephew who is amazing at playing the guitar and singing. Remember this name, Carter Stevens. He's going to be a legend. How do I know he's going to be a legend? Because I grew up with a legend too. I went to school with Chris Stapleton, sat beside him every day. We knew what Chris was going to do, okay? It wasn't rocket science. We knew that Chris was talented and he was going to be a wonderful musician someday. And he is, right? And so some people, their true calling is just obvious. For others, it's not as obvious. And maybe you're one of those people where your calling is sort of in chapters or seasons of calling. Maybe God had you do this little thing for a while, but you don't really understand why. And then it resurfaces or it builds into something later that can then expand into another chapter of calling. And for me, I'm kind of getting the idea that my true calling is to create experiences for people, whether it's through my photography or whether it's through building a Airbnb. In one case, we even built a waterfall behind one of our Airbnb properties, and that's also an experience. Like every time I do something that I really get fulfillment from, it feels like I'm creating an experience for other people. So my question to you is, what is that for you? What is your true calling? Leave in the comments what you think your true calling is. I'm eager to see, what yours might be. And I also want to ask you to kind of look at true calling like this too. In your career, your goals, your dreams, and everything, you might have aspirations of having a second home in Florida someday and being able to share those experiences with your family, and dreams and aspirations of making money and getting financial freedom. That's all great. But what I want you to think about too is your true calling must follow this formula. Remember what Jesus said in John chapter 15, verse 5. I believe it goes something like this. I'm the vine and you're the branches. Abide in me and you can bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And to me, that means you can build an empire down here according to worldly standards. But if it's not serving God, and if it's not serving other people with your true God-given talents and skills, then you're really building nothing. And that's exactly why I went through my breakdown. Because this hard drive back here, that 20 years of just trying to sell products and services, yeah, I was serving my clients, and yes, I was earning an income and building a legacy for my family and my kids, but I also wasn't really seeing the bigger picture of benefiting and blessing other people like I am in the other things that are more closely related to my true calling. And I get it. Life gets in the way sometimes. And that's what I'm going to talk about on my next video, is things that come along and kind of derail you from your true calling. Life is tough down here. And we got to pay bills. We got to pay for car insurance. We have to raise children. It's tough down here. But I'm just asking you to have your yes ready for when you get that little prompting to follow your true calling, or what I call your gold thread. Now, a gold thread has some hallmarks on it, okay? If you get butterflies, if you feel nervous, if you feel totally ill-prepared to do this next little thing, be careful, because that could be your gold thread trying to show through. It's going to ask you to step up out of your comfort zone. It's going to ask you to be disruptive. It's going to ask you to kind of set aside some of these things that are routine and branch out and take on something else that's bigger, that could actually be what God has for you in this next chapter. You might have hints of that now. If you're thinking about a career change, then maybe it's a gold thread moment that you found this video, because it could be God's prompting. Hey, I'm hopping back in here with one thought that hit me after I stopped recording earlier, and that's this. If you follow your true calling, your career can change forever. And it could start with a pay cut. You know, you're comfortable, you got your salary kind of going along, got your schedule, everything's kind of working. Why change it? Why disrupt anything, right? That's true. If you tackle this little thing that's knocking at your brain right now, that's tempting you to step out of your comfort zone and try this thing that you think might be your true calling, you might have to take a little bit of cut in salary, work less at making the money for a time, a season, and put all your heart and soul into this thing. But don't underestimate what God can do, and He can do it quickly. Remember the parable of the talents? The one guy buried his in the ground. Well, he was condemned for being disobedient. He didn't grow his talent. He just buried it because of that preservation mentality. Like, oh, I got to protect it. I don't want to lose it. I just got to hang on to it. It's comfortable. No. The other guys who invested their talents and grew their talents, they were rewarded with more. And that's exactly what I've seen in my own life. I could have kept plugging along, doing my work, and just making my living. And I will have to admit that shooting commercials and things like that was fun. It's an okay career. I like it. But when I started following my true calling, stepping out of my comfort zone and saying yes to some things that just don't even make sense at the time, like taking on something that makes absolutely no sense at the time, God was able to work wonders with those things, and quickly. And I've been blessed beyond measure in ways that I never even saw coming because of this. And that's what I want for you. I want to see your career change as a result of you stepping out in faith, being obedient, and taking a chance on God. And I cannot wait to see how that happens for you. So I hope that you'll subscribe to my channel. I can't wait to unpack a little bit more about what could disrupt your true calling in my next video. But if you want to find my book, go to jasondward.com and you can read my book, Finding Your Gold Thread, Discovering Your Purpose Through Life's Divine Moments. That's what I just talked about. And you can get a lot more when you read my book. But thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode.